Hello, today we're going to be working some more on Lonely Stick of Dynamite. We're going to replicate this minecart that was scratch built. We need another one, so I'm going to show you how to do that. The reason we need to build another one of these for the film, there is an explosion in the film that affects this minecart, and we're going to need to do a side that's damaged on it. So we're going to build another one from scratch. I'll show you how to do that and how to do damaged edge light as well. Right, so keep some scale with our models, keep them consistent throughout. I had to make a little Pete, which I did out of cardboard. This is our little cardboard Peter Guinness. So I've got a normal piece of card, found a reference photo, we had a few from the filming, and just used some pastels to colour it in. So this way we can see what scale he is with all our models and keep a consistency throughout the film. Yeah, we're going to be using a cat train set which we bought online for about £13. We've got the track from it, which is good, and we're also using one of the other parts, so it's a good purchase. Right, so here's the part that we're going to cut to pieces and then rebuild. It's mainly because the wheels on here, obviously they fit the tracks, and it's a nice shape for the bottom of our minecart. First thing we're going to do is take this main part off. You don't need that. And we'll be cutting off the excess parts here, here, and these two parts. So we're going to be using a razor saw for that. Ping. So it's always good to invest in one of these razor saws. There's plenty of different types, but as you can see, it goes through plastic fairly easily and quite clean too. I mean, I will be sanding up some of that, but it's fairly flat. A little bit of tidying up. Some sand sticks. Doesn't have to be too clean a job, as long as you're getting the sharp edges off and making all areas level with each other. And there you go. That's ready for our additions, our scratch build parts. Okay, so we're going to build some of the walls. We've already pre-built two sides and one long side. We're using old knackered Oyster cards, but you can use any type of plastic cards to make these things. Anything that works for you. So we're going to use these for our main plastic walls. So I find the easiest way to do this, bit of super glue down along the edge. Doesn't matter if it's a bit sloppy, because we're looking for a finish on the minecart that's, you know, old steel. It's bubbled up, it's got rust, all that kind of thing. So just stick two together, and then what I usually do, just to help it bond, a little bit of masking tape or sellotape. Masking tape's probably better because it's low tack, so it won't stick to the card. Get the other two together. Most of the materials, like the glue and the masking tape, you can pick up from the pound shop for £1, I think they are, which is good. Modeller's Paradise. Bit of tape just on that one. Give it a couple of seconds to cure, and then we'll stick them together as one whole. What you'll find with some things, especially plastic like this, is it doesn't stick with some types of glue. So always test on a bit first to make sure that it will stick. Otherwise you'll find yourself getting very frustrated. So that's 4 pieces together, another bit of tape. And we just let that dry for a couple of minutes. Okay, so giving it a couple of minutes, we just peel off this tape. As you can see, that's a nice solid piece of plastic to work from. So we've already taken some measurements from the old minecart, and we've transferred it onto these pieces. So I can now use that as a template to cut out this wall. So I'm going to be using a Sharpie just to mark out where we're going to cut our shape on the plastic, which we can now cut. Knife, craft knife, these ones are quite good. These are pound shop as well. They're nice and small, a little bit like a Stanley knife, but anything that cuts through plastic is good. Just get the first line nice and straight, repeatedly score down that same line. And then what you can do is just bend it over and cut down the rest, and there you go, a nice straight edge. Do the other two sides, same again, nice straight first cut, And then the line that you make with the knife should make the following cuts follow through. And again, you can just bend it once it's cut through at least halfway through the plastic. And if they don't bend off, just cut down with the knife. Mind your fingers though. On the last side. So there you go, you've got two identical sides now and two end pieces. Now we can start building on the track. Okay, what we need to do to make sure that we get no, because these are a bit loose and we don't want them falling off the track, I'm just going to glue these wheels into place. They'll still run, but I want them to be the right gauge for the track at all times. So just a spot of glue on those, and as you can see, they'll still run on the track. Now we're going to cover these holes up with a little bit of wood using our trusty coffee stirrers. So we just cut these to size. They can be quite rough and ready. Any wood is quite nice to work with, but these coffee stirrers do have a nice grain to them. When you do put a wash on them, it does stand out. So 4 of those cut to size. We're just going to glue them in place. Once the whole thing is painted, I'll cover these up with masking tape in a minute, just so that when we do prime and put the coats down, the wood won't be affected. So I'm just going to put some masking tape over it, cut it to size. And again, masking tape is good for masking things off because it's a low tack tape. So you're not pulling off, if you've already primed something or put a layer of paint down, you're not going to pull off the paint when you take the masking tape off. So that's all ready for when we do some painting. Right, so now we're going to replicate from the original model the rivet band that holds the top of it all together. So we need to make some rivets and we need to make the actual band thing. So all we've done there is we've cut some of our Oyster card, plastic card to size, measured it against there, get the same distance from the top on the original model, which is about there, glue that in place. Again, some plastic might not like glue, so you might have to hold it in place until it sets. Any edges like this we can cut off afterwards and tidy up. Right, so to do the rivets, we just use a normal hole punch, put our plastic card or Oyster card in there, punch through. You may find that they curl up, but I find that if you get a nice pair of pliers and give it a squeeze, they flatten out. And that can go with the other 39 that we've made. On the original model, there's 40 all the way around. So now it's a case of placing them in the same areas as you've got on the original model. So as you can see on this end part, we've got 7 of them. And what I done there was I started from the center and the 2 ends and worked my way in. So we'll do the same on this one. You can use these cutting mats as a measurement guide. Nice dollop of glue and plonk your rivet down. Also on the original, I haven't gone right to the end with the rivets. I've left a space and put like a little folding part of steel, if you like, so I'll remember while I'm doing that on here to do the same thing. 2 end rivets. And one advantage of the glue not working straight away on this type of plastic is you have got time to move them around a little bit if they're offline with the others. So once you've got them even, you can fit in the missing rivets. And again, put them down. You've got a couple of seconds before the glue sets. You can make sure that there's an even space between each rivet and that they line up. Doesn't matter to a certain extent because we're looking for that rough and ready look of late 1800s built stuff, so it doesn't have to be exact. So there you go, that's one side with the rivets on it. Right, so for one of the sides we need to show some damage on this side. In the film Stick of Dynamite, we have the minecart hit by an explosion. So this part is going to be damaged. So we're going to replicate that by melting some of the plastic, pushing it through to show a bulge coming out on the side where the explosion has come from. So we do that by melting this plastic and then just playing about with it with some pliers and some tools. So we're going to be heating this part of the plastic up to show the explosion where it comes into the side of the cart. Melting plastic, obviously there's going to be fumes. Make sure you've got a mask on. Make sure you're doing it in a well ventilated area. It's a little bit rainy out here at the moment, but we're lucky we've got a nice ledge outside the studio here, so I can work in the dry. And all we're going to do, use a lighter and apply some heat to the plastic. Now plastic catches fire quite quickly as well, so you have to be careful. Heat up the area. You can do it in 2 or 3 goes. Once it's heated up, you can see a crack starting to form. Just push into it with an object and you start getting that dent appearing. Work on a bit at a time. So we've got 4 corners here, luckily enough. We can work on that. You can get some pliers. Pull it apart to your heart's content, till you're happy with the shape. And then we do the same to our rivet holders. We want these twisted, like they've been ripped apart by the explosion. So just mold them into a shape, just hold it into position, and then once the plastic dries down again or loses the heat, it will keep the shape. So that's one side. I think we'll go for a real curly one on this side. And there you go. Okay, so now we're going to glue these bits together again, using the reference of how much distance there is between the top and the rivet line. Just fitting these in place. So there you can see damage done to it. We've got a nice big hole in the middle. Looks like the metal has been pushed inwards and these rivet holders pushed outwards. And when we add the rivets, we'll leave a couple of spaces where rivets might have popped off. So now we'll put the rivets in. We're only going to be seeing at least 4 on each side here. And we can still put the odd one on here. So again, using the original as a reference. And then we'll stick a couple on here, but we want to give the impression that some of them have been taken out by the explosion. So we'll leave a gap between the top and the middle. And the same on the other side. And there we go. Right, so putting it together. This is awkward sometimes because you've only got one set of hands, but you can use masking tape to hold pieces together while they're glued. So we'll start off with that. Just make sure you're getting the right sides. Just glue it in a rough shape, just so that you get the angles right. Once you get all 4 parts together, it will hold itself to shape anyway. Again, we're going for a rough and ready look. If you do overlap on the sides, you can put some glue down there, and then once you paint it, it looks like solder lines, which adds to the effect. The final piece. This is where it gets tricky, and you need about 50 hands. mainly because yours gets stuck to the plastic. You can see the basic shape now. As I said, once you get all four sides together, as a shape, it should hold itself together while it sets. And there you go. That's the basic shape. That will be going on top of this to produce the minecart. Right, so now we're going to mount this onto our cart, or the wheel part. So P for plenty with the glue on this bit. As most of it's inside, you're not going to see it. And again, if it does spill out, it looks like someone's taken a soldering iron to it to strengthen it up. So get that in position, line it up, and then what we're going to do once that's a couple of seconds to set is we're going to reinforce the joints with some Yoo-hoo glue. And we've got a slight gap at the bottom which we'll also fill with Yoo-hoo. We're going to use it to reinforce the joins that we've made and also fill these gaps a bit. Doesn't matter if it spills out, it'll look like seam lines where places have been soldered to reinforce. As this is a thicker glue, it's good for gap filling. Takes longer to dry. Okay, so all we're going to be doing is running the glue up and down that edge and also along the line at the bottom. It will, through capillary reaction, just hold on to both sides and give you a completed floor, if you like. Again, using glues like these, the smell can sometimes be overpowering, so if you've got a mask, use it. If not, well ventilated room. And again, just going over the gap, filling it up with the glue and reinforcing those edges. Okay, so on the original, we've got some buffers, like all good trains have, safety thing, and all they are safety pins. So all we do is we've got some holes already there. Nice big old bit of Yoo-hoo and whack the pin in. There you go, that's one side. And the other side. Oops, a bit dropped on the wheel there. And there you go, 4 inexpensive buffers. Peeling the tape off now that it's had time to set. And even though we're going to be priming it, we're going to be using the same colour as we're going to be using for the final coat, which is lead belcher or gun metal. But this one's a Citadel product. They're usually very good. And again, always make sure you're in a well ventilated room, or if you're lucky enough to have a spray booth, use that, or mask up and come outside. So we're just going to be priming the model. Nice even coats going across the model. Not ideal conditions for spraying out here. It's been raining, but we have to make do where we can. That's the first coat on. So we're just going to speed up the drying by using a hairdryer on a low heat. That should do it. Okay, so we've put a second coat on. Now we're going to start to replicate the rust and other areas on here of weathering. Going to try and get it as close as possible. Obviously around the blast area it'll be slightly different. I'll put some streaking in to show where it's been hit by flame, etc. But we're going to try and get this as much as possible around the outsides as this one, so it can be undiscernible on the screen. So we start off with some Typhus corrosion from Citadel. These are great technical paints used in conjunction with the Riser Rust. Will give us this nice rust colour. A medium-sized brush, I think, for this one. And again, we're looking at the areas where we've got paint on the first one and try and replicate it. As we get near the blast area, obviously the force of the blast will blow some of the rust away, so we're not too worried about this area here. But around the rest of it, that's where we want to make it as much as possible like the original one. So you're putting this Typhus Corruption down first. It's a technical paint. It's got little bits of grit on it so that when you put the Riser Rust over the top as a highlight, it picks up on those little bits of grit. And also blended in with the Riser Rust gives you a nice rust effect as well. So you can get 2 or 3 different types of rust effects with the same couple of paints. Hopefully this will be near enough to the original one. But not forgetting all areas at the top and around these rivets. I know that one hasn't actually got any rust on. Again, these are acrylic paints. They dry pretty quickly, but you can wipe them off if you make a mistake. And try and get these lighter shades in between the main rust parts. We'll supplement with some washes later, but just to darken down the whole area. We'll do it a bit at a time, so we'll go down as far as this bit, I think, and then we'll start putting the Riser Rust on. Right, time to swap brushes. This is another technical paint, Citadel. It's a dry paint, so you can use it for dry brushing, but what I like to do as well is blend it in. So not using a traditional dry brushing method, but just going in with the Riser Rust, just to get that tone and quality of the 2 paints together, and then going over the top with a highlight afterwards. Now, obviously trying to replicate this is nigh on impossible, so you're just trying to get a close enough in the right areas. As you can see there, you get that lovely rusty colour with the 2 paints combined, and later on I'll follow down onto the wheels and doing this yellow part afterwards, but at the moment we're just going to be concerned with getting these colours down. It's a nice bit of rust up there, don't forget that bit. And on this rivet. As long as it looks similar, the eye will trick you into thinking it's the same object anyway. Might have to go back to the other colour in a minute just to fill in, make this a bit darker, or use a wash maybe. If you are going too orange, you can go back to the other colour. Trying to get the same shapes in the same areas. Probably a bit too much paint on that. So just using some yellow here. Most of it is going to be sanded off, but just getting some colour down for me to play with afterwards. Just what I've done on that one was sandpaper once I put some yellow on. So just putting some paint on the buffers. That's the only other yellow part on this. And again, most of this will be sanded off and rusted up, but it does just add a little bit of colour to it. There you go, jobby done. Right, the only other type of weathering I'm going to be doing here is maybe putting some smoke trails from where the explosions hit. I'm just going to use a wash. Citadel do a nice wash called Nuln Oil. I've just put yellow all over. And all we're going to be doing is putting it around the edges and maybe some little streaks coming from the centre. And as the brush loses its paint, just drag it further out just to accentuate where the explosions hit. Just blown all the rust away, so we won't be having to do some rust, and just put some darker stuff near the middle. Little streaks. You can play about with this to your heart's content, but there is a tendency to overdo it sometimes. So I think I'll stop there. And there we go, we're well on our way to completing the new minecart. Right, we're just going to speed up the drying process by using a hairdryer, put it on a low heat and blow everything flying.